with Dee Wright interviewing Sam.
Union Affairs Officer. As head of the union, they provide strategic vision and lead the trustee board. They are the primary representative to the University Council and external bodies like the NUS. Their role involves managing the chief executive, overseeing union governance and policy, and acting as the main liaison for college presidents.
Good evening, I'm Dee Wright, and now for the final interview of the evening, I'm interviewing Sam Dickinson for the role of Union Affairs Officer. So, getting the elephant out of the room, last year you had the role of Community and Wellbeing Officer, what you hold at the moment. After a restructure of the SAB roles, you've decided to go for the Union Affairs Officer rather than sticking with the community role. What's behind that change? What's the motivation on that?
So, what, for me changing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think in my role as Community and Wellbeing, I focus a lot on the cost of living and sort of the big structural issues that are affecting the student union and the students. And for me, I think it was just sort of, especially with the restructure of EDI into community inclusion, I felt that I was better suited in a role that was more about the big picture strategic stuff of how we do cost of living relief at the university. And also particularly with reference to stuff like the political positioning of the SU. I think, I ran the Circuit Laundry campaign, for example. I think that's an example of where we need to have a much stronger political voice on cost of living measures. And I think the Union Affairs role is just the best suited to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking about Circuit Laundry, you've promised to finish the job on that.
Yeah.
What would that look like? What's your ideal laundry solution for students?
Yeah, finish the job. It's a very political phrase. Finish the job. So to me, that means actually getting an outcome. So I'm going to be completely cards on the table. I think it should be a reduction in the price, and I think there should be an allocation of free washes. This is something that other universities do, and it's sort of what came out of the student testimony. We surveyed over almost 700 students, and it was very clear that the cost of laundry was a persistent thing, like a persistent worry for students, and a free wash pack, which is what Bucks Student Union got achieved. Sheffield does it, Southampton does it. They have free washes all included in the rent. So yeah, finish the job just means achieve what I set out to achieve, which is a reduction in price and an allocation of free washes.
Well, so you'd want to keep it with Circuit Laundry rather than going for a sort of in-house?
No, I mean, so it's hard. I don't want to say too much because SABs are on the tender process. Yeah. But I have made it clear in my campaign that it does seem like other providers like WashNet, for example, not to get too niche, do offer cheaper laundry at universities like Bristol. And it's funny because Circuit Laundry is always the more expensive provider at universities where there's Circuit and WashNet in different halls. So I think because Circuit was a monopoly, I think that's probably why it's so expensive. So there's also an angle there that it's in the university's interest as well to change provider and reduce the price.
Yeah, thanks. Now, one of the big campaign promises you've made is to establish a student rights charter. Mm-hmm. What sort of things would you include on that?
So I think it sounds like a really waffly student union promise, doesn't it? I will give a bit of background into where that's come from. So the OFS, which is the Office for Students, frequently rules on student complaints. So if a student complains to the OFS about their university, the OFS will investigate and sort of make a recommendation, and generally universities follow those. So I always use the example of a student in a wheelchair who complained to the OFS that they didn't have access to accessible rooms at their university. The OFS came in and ruled that the university wasn't upholding its commitment to equitable access to education. So that becomes an implied right, but I think students don't know that because it's so lost in the sort of bureaucratic world of student rights. It's not written down anywhere. It's sort of, you would really have to be in the know to know about that right and the fact that you can complain and get a result. So student rights charter would be about writing down those rights, identifying those rights firstly, writing them down and putting them in a charter that the university endorses, that the university promotes, that the SU endorses and promotes, so students can very easily know, if this hasn't happened, I have recourse and I can get something out of it.
Lovely, thank you. Now, many of your proposals would involve significant funding from the university and the Students' Union. You've got restoring the Student Centre building project, a bursary for extortionate rent, increasing the amount of multilingual staff. Given the financial difficulties a student at the university is in at the moment, where will the money come from, basically?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the Student Centre, there are loads of buildings on campus that are just not being used. The SU ran a massive campaign on reserved but not for students. So there are the spaces for these sort of initiatives. I don't think that would cost that much money, and it's so sorely needed. And I think the university knows that and will find the money for it. And let's not forget that £34 million in cuts, the university is in a better position now financially to fund those sort of projects. In terms of bringing back the bursary, that is on my manifesto. Again, we are in a position where students are struggling more and more with cost of living. The university has made cuts. They're in a better financial position. I think you cannot argue against that as a university. If you're going to put up rents, that's more income for you. The university, I mean, yeah, it's a tricky financial situation, but there is the money there for the most vulnerable students. And the university is all about commitments to social justice. And yeah, we made the cuts. Let's use that money now.
Yeah, thank you. Speaking of money, buses are a big concern for you. You campaigned, you've been working on that a lot over the last year as well. You want to lobby for a universal student bus ticket like they've got in Sheffield. Given the increase on services on the student ticket that this could have, is there a risk that this would increase bus ticket prices overall, as the price will have to compensate? So, in short, would this policy risk increasing the cost of living for students?
It's a good challenge. I think it's really hard to get around York because of the bus tickets. Yeah. It's £3 if you want. So, for example, if I lived in second year, I lived up in Clifton by the hospital. So I'd have to get the number 5 bus and the number 1 bus or the number 6 bus into town. And that could cost me like £12 a day if I was to pay the single fares. So it's just a no-brainer that if other university cities can do it, why can't we do it? And also, First Bus does quite well out of York. Yeah. This is just a fact. You can look into their numbers. First Bus is a private company that does very well generally. I think it's also in the university's interest to fight with us on that thing. I think that's one of the areas that I'm really keen on focusing on, is that we should attack the university, we should be aggressive against the university, but also identify that there are areas where we can work with the university. I don't think anyone's tried particularly hard with First Bus to get a better student ticket. I don't know if it would increase the price. I don't think it would. It wouldn't have to, because First Bus makes loads of money. It's a very successful private company, and we have control over what happens with that ticket pricing.
Fair enough. Now, you also want to create a safety accreditation to ensure nighttime safety. Last year, you campaigned quite heavily on nighttime safety. What have you done to improve the issue over the last year?
Yeah, so I created the Night Safety Toolkit, which is a space on our SU website that has very clearly laid out all the information you need to know. So information about spiking, what to do if you think you've been spiked, and also put the reporting form right at the top. Also rewrote the reporting form to really emphasise survivor autonomy, so to encourage that complaining and submitting of reports to make it more visible. I also did lots of communications stuff. It's about promoting the services that are there, but I think we still have work to do. There's always more work to do, and safety accreditation that puts in, and especially third-party safety accreditation, which I think would have more legitimacy than us saying we've done amazing. Look at all these things we've done. We need to bring in someone from the outside to look at our venues, give us training. And so for me, that's a logical next step, because we can rewrite things, but at the end of the day, we need some concrete stuff in place.
Yeah. Final, potentially slightly tricky question. You say that you want a more political union. One of the biggest issues this year is the NUS referendum. Have you got a position on this?
Yeah. So the NUS referendum, I believe in an NUS, just not this NUS.
Right, yeah.
And I think, like, I'm probably the most swearable person on the NUS debate, because I am ready to have a conversation, because intrinsically I do believe in something like the NUS. An NUS will always exist, but I think in its current form, it just doesn't deliver for students. And we haven't had much communication from the NUS. We haven't had the conversations proactively. They knew there was going to be a referendum, and those conversations haven't been had. So, yeah, I believe in an NUS, just not this NUS. And I hope that one day we'll have one that's more effective, more visible, and better value for money for students.
Lovely. In about 30 seconds, if people should take one thing away from your campaign, what should it be?
More aggressive union that is bold on social issues, that is bold on cost of living, and is not afraid to use its voice. And I'll be a voice at the top of the union with an active political voice, and I'll stand up and speak out on social issues that students want us to do, and I'll do that.
Lovely, thank you very much. Any final closing thoughts? About 10 seconds.
Vote for me, please, I guess.
Fairly reasonable. Thank you very much. That's been Sam Dickinson, the Union Affairs candidate. We'll be heading back now to the Green Room for the end of the night.